spent 3 months living at Buddhist meditation center to learn more about Vipassana meditation. And this was like, my summer internship after my sophomore year. I started to get the bug to build my own thing. It was a mix of just LLMs just continuing to get better and being like, wow, there's so much cool stuff to build here. I think it's one of like the coolest times to go and build and code something up. B, I have friends who are founders, and looking at them, I felt like they were growing more than I was. Like, I think being an early stage employee, you grow a lot. It's also true that being a founder, you probably grow more than anything else. Just as much of the growth is like stress and difficulties and hardship. My parents are very
Really?
much like not pro entrepreneurship. They would much rather me sort of like not be in Korea and be in Tennessee working a nice job.
Being broke is bad, but being stupid is what's really bad. And what's really, really bad is being broke and stupid.
Confucius says that you have two lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only have one.
No one is paying attention.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Hey, anything worth doing is.
At 19, he only spoke one language. At 21, entrepreneurship was barely in his vocabulary. Now, at 25, he is striving for fluency in Korean and building a differentiated language learning product, leveraging AI rather than an emotive owl. Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to episode 7 of Young, Smart, and Battling Broke. In this episode, I interview Adam Novak, who is building the Fluency project, what he calls his life's work, in Seoul, South Korea. Random Korean strangers recognize Adam from his founder-led marketing stunts that have pulled in more than 60 million views across platforms. He is taking on his bold startup goal as a solo founder. Although this latest adventure would be the most interesting thing in most people's lives, it's probably second or third for him. Previously, he was founding design engineer of 222, a Y Combinator-backed startup in New York. He later co-founded Good Home, a wellness-focused home inspection company, where we actually competed with one another. And before all that, Adam lived as a monk for several months, practicing Vipassana meditation. I'm lucky to call him a friend and mentor, as he is a constant example of how to live with clarity and conviction. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Thank you. Welcome, Adam, to the podcast. Super excited to have you on, man. And you've been like an entrepreneurial mentor, pure mentor for me, like for about 2 years. And it's been fascinating to watch you from afar and all the different projects that you've taken on. And right now, the latest project is crazy cool to me. And I'd love if you could just touch on where you're sitting right now.
Yeah, dude. Great to be on the show, and thanks for having me. I'm sitting in we work in Seoul, South Korea, right now. It's 9:45 in the morning, although I'm guessing it's probably sometime in the evening over in America.
Mm-hmm. And why are you in Seoul, South Korea, brother?
Yeah, so I am building a language learning company right now, and I was previously in San Francisco, and I thought about continuing to build it there, but I was like, you know what? I've been studying Korean for like 6 years, and I can speak pretty like reasonably conversationally fluently. I still have a lot to improve on, and I've like really wanted to live in Korea. Um, spend more time here. I've like spent this much time studying Korean, but I feel like I've only like really been able to use it like this much. So there's a lot of like sort of like awesome life experiences to have speaking that. And I'm also in the early stages of building this company where I want to focus on building the MVP. And I don't need to be in any particular place to build the MVP. So I could, being out here, it's like all laptop work, design, coding, communicating all through a laptop. And lastly, I also wanted to make content. So as part of the like founder-led marketing, building up so that a long-term brand, personal brand that can flow into the company. So I figured there's just so many opportunities to make content when I'm out here in Korea of me like speaking Korean.
And a lot of those content pieces have already seemed to grab some eyes. I've seen some of the stuff on LinkedIn and your Twitter. Can you talk through some of like the marketing tactics thus far?
Yeah. So I have been doing mostly short form content, and the whole idea was just like, um, how can I like use my own sort of like language learning sort of like progress so far and my journey to become better as inspiration for others to sort of like learn a language as well. Like the idea that someone sees my whatever my profile is on any platform, and they're like, oh, like that guy is wow, like he's so inspiring. Like he's learning a language and he's like trying to speak with locals, and like that's exactly what I want to do. So they follow along for the journey, and I can motivate them and make their day. Um, and so yeah, I've been doing that with like been like speaking Korean with strangers until I'm fluent. That's one series. Just like walking up to strangers out in the streets. I'm about to actually go to the like countryside of Korea in a week. Not Seoul, so I can like meet more just like locals out in the wild. Um, like going on dates in Korea until I'm fluent. That has been a series where like I'm still trying to figure that out. One of them like did really well, the other ones haven't done super well. So I'm trying to figure out like what is the storyline there. And then the other thing I've been doing is holding up just like signs like in Korea, like sign guy from New York City, but just doing that in Korea. I
Being
just
a
thought it
tall
would be
ass
like
white boy doing it definitely grab some
yeah,
eyes.
yeah, you add the tallness in the white guy, and it just like makes it that much funnier. I um I just did one of those just to like be funny, but it like really popped off. At like every single person in Korea I've talked to is like seeing that post now. So it said "토익 만점 나도 불가능," which is like even I can't ace the English proficiency test, which
Mm,
is like very everyone like like no one can ace it. Everyone feels like they should. And so when a white guy says that, it's just like, oh my gosh, thank you, bro. Like I
appeals to
needed
the
to hear
chronic
that.
stressor.
Yeah,
I love that, man. That's awesome.
exactly.
And then you mentioned an MVP here. What is the MVP we're building towards? If you can kind of give the contours of what the objective is here.
Totally. So the product is called Amiko, which means friend in the language Esperanto, which is like the universal language created in the late 1800s.
Hmm.
And it's basically a AI language exchange partner. So it's kind of, we have these, if you're learning a language, you can have a language exchange partner, which is like someone who lives in that country, and you can text, and you can write letters, and you can call about, your
Nice.
life and their life. And you're learning the language, but you also kind of get to see, you know, peer into like what a life in that country looks like.
Hmm.
Um, I have appreciated some language learning partners over my time, and I was like, oh, this could actually be really cool if you productize this, um, so that anyone could have a language exchange partner, like regardless of what language they're learning and regardless of what language they come from. So it's like there's a lot of these AI tutors out there that are popping up, using ChatGPT and these LLMs to create like voice experiences, and I think they're cool, but they're just sort of like uninspired. It's just like this tutor like stuck inside your phone. It'd be more, I feel like, interesting if it was a person that seemed to actually like live a local life in the country. So long term, we want to the vision for the product is like cultural fluency should be as important as linguistic fluency. Like you should be learning just as much about Korea as a country and the culture as you are about the language. Because for me, that's really I'm not learning Korean because I like want to like just because I want to become fluent, or just because I want to you know earn more money. The greater end for me is like I want to understand a new world. I want to um, just understand what Korea is like, right? So I'm appealing to that sort of demographic.
100%. Like I know for me with Japanese, I lived in Japan for a while, and the the saddest part of not speaking the language well enough was feeling like you weren't able to access someone's full humanity. And Yeah, that's I
Mm.
think ultimately what your goal is with the Fluency project. It's just to enable as many people as possible to be able to access as many people as possible. Um, and fluency, I think, is also such an extreme threshold, especially for Korean or Japanese, right? Um, and once you cross that threshold, though, you also lose a lot of um, the cultural challenges. I think fluency is almost like the bar of even knowing the slang, and that's when there's also this almost complete breaking down of barriers. And I saw one of your posts on LinkedIn. That seems like you're not trying to just be another language learning service and get people like halfway there, get people knowing how to order a taxi or knowing how to order a meal. You're trying to get people to be able to truly engage with that country. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, yeah. I love the point you made earlier of like, not being able to sort of like tap into and understand someone's full humanity. That's definitely what motivated me in the early days to keep pushing through with Korean. And yeah, we're starting with like from those who are at an intermediate level, and the goal is to take them from intermediate to, all the way to the end goal, fluency. And then later on, we'll build all the tooling to get someone from, beginner level up to intermediate. And so in terms of
Mm.
the MVP, we I say we, it's really I, but I'll use we because it sounds cooler. We are um, it's coming along. I would love to get it out within the next month or so. Actually, I pushed an update. Actually, I should check right now. I pushed an update to Apple. Um, it's still waiting for review. Um, to get the like pre-order on the App Store. And yeah, it's always hard because like you always want it to be better than like it actually is, right? Like the vision's up here and the product right now it's like right here, and I'm like, no, but I wanted to do all these things differently. But especially as a solo founder, one man team, and also doing content, there's just like a lot of moving pieces, and so um, yeah, the progress has been slower than I would like, but Amiko should be out soon.
Hmm. I'm so excited. And at the end of it, we'll definitely ensure that we like provide a way for people to access or get that early access once it's out. But I'm curious, man. So as you mentioned, solo founding at this point, you've had a couple ventures before this, and I want to kind of double click on each of those and learn what brought you to this ultimate project, which seems hyper aligned with you. But if you could kind of walk us through the beginning of this journey, you graduate USC, and maybe while you were at USC, you started working on 222. But can you talk us through your kind of first taste of entrepreneurship, or legit entrepreneurship, which maybe we'll prescribe as 222 here?
Totally. I can even go back a bit before then. I feel like I've always just been I just like it was my inclination just to start things since I was a kid. So I, like many entrepreneurs, I did the classic like lemonade stand, like fifth grade. I still have like vivid memories of that. In like seventh grade, I was obsessed with the Warriors Cats book, and so I convinced my friends to like start a band with me called the Meow Band, and be like I like made T-shirts that said the meow on it, and then we like performed in front of the school, just like rapping the word meow over and over again. Not really a company, but like something. I guess you could call that content at a young age.
That was definitely going to be
Um,
profitable at some point.
um, I like Clash of Clans. That was really big. It still is big. I was like always obsessed with like starting a clan and like running the clan and like how to optimize like all of my building constructions and like how do we grow our member base. Um, so like in high school, I was class president, and I helped like start this new dance, like underclass and winter semi-formal, which was like prom, but for young kid, the freshmen, sophomores. So for me, I just like loved just like starting things and like kind of like building like a team or product or organization. Um, and when I got to college, I actually like what's really fascinating is that I always had that inclination, but I never really internalize that as like this is entrepreneurship or like I am an entrepreneur. I think from the outside, I wish it's maybe no one in my circle was an entrepreneur, and so no one really knew that. But so from the outside, looking back on it, I was like, dude, like if I was my dad, I'd be like, dude, you're an entrepreneur. Like, let me push this, and like, what can you go and start? But when I went to college, I was that word was never not even in my headspace. So I was
Hmm.
like wanting to do like consulting my freshman year, and so I like applied a bunch of consulting internships and tried to join the consulting club, got rejected, um, and I it wasn't I you know I ended up doing a gap year after my freshman year, um, for mainly because I had met friends who had done gap years before their freshman year, traveled the world, 13th year of high school in China, volunteering in Brazil, and I was just like, wow, that's so cool. I wish I could travel like that too. And I was like, wait, I can't. I can just do a leave of absence and come back and where we're chilling. So I also like wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Like consulting didn't really feel like me. So the gap year, just traveling the world, just felt like this is like pretty good outcome. Like I'll graduate a year later, but like I feel like I will understand like get to know more about myself during that gap year. Um, and the funny thing is during that gap year, I didn't do any entrepreneurship even then too, but I got really just in traveling. I started to learn a local language. Is first was Korean while I was in Korea, and I just like really, yeah, like really enjoyed it. Had so much fun with it. I don't know if it's I never really like liked language learning before that. I like knew I would like it. So I don't know if it's either like I like found my interest, like I realized that I love languages, or if it's B, like me simply spending a year traveling and learning languages, like created all of that interest, right? I think to some extent people sort of overrate the whole like I need to find my passion or find my interest when it's really more of like you just need to like do something and like build some emotional connection to something, and then that like your interest emerges from that, right? Like go, I don't know, right? Like go like live on like go live on a boat for like a summer, and maybe you'll like start loving like fishing and boats, and that'll become your interest, right? Or go, I don't know, to like flight school for a summer, and you'll like love airplanes, or the list, goes on and on. You have to like just do something, and like maybe you'll hate it, but maybe um you'll like love it, and that sort of your interest emerges from there. So I think that might have been what happened to me. I was learning Korean on the gap year really intensely, while living in Korea and traveling elsewhere. And then years later, when I got back to USC, I was studying computer science, and I guess that like entrepreneurship bug sort of came back out. And actually, when I was graduating, I wanted to apply to. Um, I was actually wanting to get into a big tech job. My senior year, I feel like that's kind of what like the pressure around me was. Again, I wasn't really too familiar with the startup like ecosystem even at that point. I had read some like Paul Graham articles, the like founder of YC, Y Combinator, and I was like I was like aware the startups were a thing, but didn't know like how to find startups or like where I should go. And so I applied to all these big tech internships my senior year of college for like software engineering, PM, like everything. I didn't get any of them, which I think turned out to be the best. And it was until the end of my senior year that I was shipping all these apps myself on the side, like designing and doing iOS development. And I came across this team 222. They had just come out of YC, and they were doing pretty well. They had like this new concept of like meeting strangers over dinner. People were paying for it, and I was like, "Well, this is so interesting." And they needed someone who was just like me. So, yeah, I only had one offer out of college, and I was joining this early stage startup as their first employee.
Wow. And I don't even want to interrupt you, dude. I kind of want to just keep on creating space. Can you continue this story? So then, what happens from here?
Yeah. So one extra note I'll add in there is I actually was kind of around that time I met them. I got this offer. I actually was, I mentioned I've been shipping these other apps in my free time, and I was actually kind of considering just doing my own thing and going off and you know building my own startup. I Again, I wasn't really, like, exactly sure what the world looked like, startups, so I was like, "You know what? I can figure it out." And also I had my best friend, Kevin, in college with me. We were working together. Both studied CS. He was even more, he's like smartest guy I know, really humble guy, great guy. He is like more of like the genius mind. And he was like working more of like the on the engineering side, and I was more on the like sort of like rest of the side. And he actually was down to go do something together. But I just like didn't have the self-confidence at the time. Um, I was like kind of like unsure of what to do, like what problem to solve, what thing to build. We had been pivoting around every month with a new app. I had no conviction on
Mm.
anything. And I think that's like really hard. Um, it's possible, there are people who don't have like super strong conviction on what they want to build, and they sort of like, okay, let's like find a problem, and you find a problem and you build for it. Um, but also you can end up in pivot hell, which is frankly that's where I was at. I was at pivot hell at the time. So I was just lack of self confidence. But my parents also were like, Adam, like, don't do a startup. Like, we paid for all this college. You need to go get a job. Like, that was our dream for you to get a job after college. My parents are very
Really?
much like not pro entrepreneurship. They would much rather me sort of like, not be in Korea and like be in Tennessee working a nice job. Um, so that also played a role. And so, yeah, I decided to join. Also, the opportunity to join 222 was a pretty cool opportunity. So I joined them as their first hire, and yeah, I worked with them for like a year and a half. I like designed and built their app from scratch, and uh, we're like 30x their revenue. It was like pretty small, and we were just in LA, but now we've grown to a bunch of city like New York City, SF, London, Chicago. And it was just so, yeah, through that experience, I've just learned that like it was so me. Like working in early stage startups, like yeah, I'm very much a generalist. I think like I just like to do everything. I don't do any one thing like really well, but I can do a lot of things reasonably well. And the more generalist you are, I think generally the better fit you are for an early stage company.
Hmm. And that first job, I know finances are really taboo. Was the salary something that you were like, okay, this can keep me afloat for a bit. This makes sense. Or was it a startup salary, or was it like, oh, it's a salary?
It's a good question. The starting the offer was like it was like 95K plus um plus like 1% I think in equity, um as a first hire, first design. It was like a design engineer hire, so like mix of UI design plus iOS engineering. And for me that wasn't high enough, so I negotiated it up into the low to mid hundreds and a little bit more equity. And that was really because this was also a factor of like I knew I wanted to start something at some point, and like I said, I had no conviction at the time, but I um, also like didn't wasn't overflowing with cash, right? Like I had like I had like five figures, like in the five figures of money saved up from like my parents gave me like yay money for college, and I only spent like yay of it. So the rest of it, there's like several fives of figures I had saved up to go and live on my own. So I could live on my own for like, I don't know, LA or New York City, like year and a half, um, maybe a year and a half, um, going abroad several years. But I was like, you know what, like just a bit more runway um, would also be more comfortable. So over this past year and a half of working there, I haven't worked there for like 6 months now, but over that time, I saved up. I like doubled my runway, basically, um, and that has definitely made things easier. Now that I quit my job, I didn't raise any money for this yet, So I'm just on my own savings. And that's also one extra reason why I came out to Korea. It's just that like it's like it's a bit cheaper.
Hmm. That's fascinating. And so you're getting the runway in terms of cash while you're at 222. Are you getting an education as well that you think is valuable down the road? Do you think that like getting thrown into that environment that yes, it's probably very chaotic, but it is, and maybe I'm giving too much credit here, but it got the stamp of YC, so it's probably a little bit of organized chaos. Um, did it feel like a high growth experience that enabled you further for future projects? Like, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is maybe some tactical concepts for people that are interested in entrepreneurship and curious if dipping their toes in a company that, like, yes, they're a hire and not a founder, um, how that actually enables them down the line.
That is a great question. I think that I it can really depend on sort of like who the founders are, and like the state of the team. I The founders, like, they weren't that much older than me, right? They're, like, right around my age, actually. They were, like, kinda like we're at the same grade level, like, age at USC. And so, I didn't, like, to be honest, like, learn tremendously from them, any particular things. Um, I and that's, like, one thing that looking back, I was like, "Yeah, I all things being equal, it would've been cooler to have worked underneath some, like, second time founder or, like, 30-year-old, 50-year-old, 30-year-old 40-year-old who like has all this sort of like wisdom and like work experience built up to you know parlay over to me. What I did learn from was just like being in the weeds of like a thing that's actually like has customers and
Hmm.
is making money, right? I feel like I had always been at the like 0 to 1 stage of like how do I even like build something that anyone cares about and would even pay money for. And they had sort of like already gotten that, and they were at now this like 1 to like 10 stage. Like people are paying us money, and they're like liking our thing. How do we serve these customers well? Um, how do we? The other things you learn this early stage is like how do you prioritize, right? Like that's something that I think maybe it's a never-ending learning, um, but like working through priorities when there's like this a million things to do, and like what's the most important is always a tough question that I think you can get better at answering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in terms of so I think like on that front of like how yeah the 1 to 10 serving customers prioritization, um, shipping, I got a lot better there. In terms of like design and coding generally, I like did a lot more of that, and so I got better. Um, I think I also would have developed more on the design and coding front had I had a few people that were ahead of me. So if I had joined, let's say, like a startup that had like, I don't know, like 20 to like 40 people instead of just the three founders and me instead of the four of us, there probably would have been what, like one extra, I don't know, maybe like iOS engineer or like designer ahead of me, right? And I could have sort of like learned a lot from them. And so I think that it was just a trade-off, right? If I was also in the position, guess what? I would have less sort of like purview, right? And less like control responsibility over the product. So it's like what do you want to index more on? Do you want to index more for learning? Then you'll have less, for lack of a better word, ownership and vice versa. If I could go back, I honestly think I would index a bit more for the learning. Um, like I say it worked out pretty well to join 222. I It may have been better for my, like, design and engineering, growth if I had joined a slightly later stage startup. Um, there was plenty of times I was working there and I was like, "Oh, like, how do I code this up?" And it would just be me, like, searching, like, for a while, trying to figure this out. And I even had to, like yeah, like, try to, like, get connected with other iOS engineers who knew what they were doing. Um So I think,
The most interesting education it seems to have given you, though, was that you can build, because you left college, it sounds like, feeling under, I don't know, just not ready to do your own thing, as you mentioned with Kevin. Um, and you left 222 with a confidence, seemingly. So what flipped that switch?
true. Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably like one of the biggest, I don't know, if learning is the right word, but like sort of like changes that arose in me over that time was just like seeing, you know, it's one thing when you like look at a company from the outside and you're like, oh wow, they've been doing this for 10 years. That's so cool. Um, and it's another thing if you're actually working in a company for, let's say, like in my case, a year and a half at 2, and you just like see the company slowly just get better and better, and the product get better and better over time. And you're just like, oh, okay. So like this is what, sort of like resilience means. This is what sort of like direction means. Things we had a million things from day one that we like wanted to make better that just weren't there yet. And like the company and the product is just slowly getting there. And it's just a matter of, perseverance, and it's a marathon and not a sprint. And that was sort of my issue actually, was like I said, I was building all these apps in college, like didn't have conviction, was like popping on from one thing to another. And I think just being in that environment for that long, where it's like, oh wow, okay, like I'm literally, lifting up this company with the rest of them together, like kind of like you said, like I can build something that's like legit and that's like people love.
Hmm.
And then internalize, and I'd be like, okay, for me as well, if I go do my own thing, I can make this work. The one thing I just need to use this time is like that perseverance and sticking out something for the long term.
Yeah. And what was next?
Yeah, so after about a year and a half, I started to, I think, get the bug to build my own thing. It was a mix of like just LLMs just continuing to get better and being like, wow, there's so much cool stuff to build here. Really, I think it's one of like the coolest times to go and build something and code something up. B, I have friends who are founders and entrepreneurs, and they, truthfully, like looking at them, I felt like they were growing more than I was. Like I think being an early stage employee, you grow a lot. It's also true that being a founder, you probably grow more than anything else. There's just so much you have to do and handle, and to be honest, there's like j- just as much of the growth is like stress and difficulties and hardship. And then I was also just like reflecting. I was like, you know what? I just um, I'm gonna have more regret if I don't go and start something right now. I Yeah, I actually had a friend who got into YC, and love him. He's like a really great friend. Um, he had like he never knew how to code um, until after he graduated college. He taught himself how to code in like under a year, and just like full sended it, and things were working. He was like, I visited him in San Francisco, and he was like just coding so well and like working really intense. And I was like, dude, I miss that. Like, I want to be like all in. I want to be high risk, high upside, like maximum growth. I just wasn't feeling that at
Hmm.
the at 2 to 2. So yeah, I decided to leave and parted ways on good terms with 2 to 2. And for a while, I felt a lot of actually like what's the um, guilt for leaving. I think that's partially my personality type of like getting too emotional and feeling bad for people and being like, oh my gosh, like what are they gonna do without me? Like they needed me as their engineer to build the app. But you have to, I mean, it's fair to have those thoughts, and it's good to have them in certain contexts, like family and friends. But to some extent, especially in a commercial sort of like um, professional world, I think it makes sense to prioritize yourself, your self interest, right, over the company's interest, and at certain times, and that was a time for me. So I left, and yeah, I called out my friend Kevin, who I worked with previously, and I was like, "Hey, dude, so I just quit my job, and I want to go and build a startup. Are you interested in joining?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude, let's do it." So he also quit his job with me, and we both flew to San Francisco, moved in, and started working on something new.
I don't even have to be here, man. You're telling the story too well, man. Okay, what is that something new? Continue, man. So like something new
Um,
is honestly how we got to know each other quite a bit better because that was
yeah,
humorously like basically in the exact same space. That was something that me and a couple buddies started to build. So
yeah,
can you touch on this is good home?
totally. We've had a lot of calls on this topic. I
On home wellness, yeah.
on home wellness. I I so we wanted to go to San Francisco because we were in New York City beforehand, but San Francisco just seemed like the place to go and start a startup. And I had friends that were all my friends that were starting startups were in San Francisco. I had visited and it just seemed like more of like an intense work culture, which is, to be honest, just what I was wanting at the time. Um, so, and originally I wanted to build actually a language learning company then too. I talked with Kevin like, "Hey man, like I have these ideas for some language learning apps. Like, what do you think?" And he was just, "Nah, man, like not me. I not something I want to get like deep into." And I was like, "Okay, that's fair. Doesn't have to be that. Could be something else too." So we were pivoting around a bit, and doing a lot of like research on like trends and the market, and we ended up finding longevity really interesting. And how do we even we were like searching through like the IRS database on like HSA FSA refunds, and we found that like
As people do on a Saturday night.
that's literally what you do on a Saturday night in San Francisco, though. Actually, like there's nothing else. There's no parties going on. Doing the research on these IRS like yeah refunds, and we found that that like yeah like home improvements were one, and we were like, oh, interesting. Like people like or HSA FSA rebates could be used for home improvements, and we're like, oh wow, what what are these home improvements? And we found that like mold like remediation was one of them. And then we found like mold remediation like kind of a big issue. And we were like, interesting. Like, what if you? This sounds kind of crazy, but like, what if you built a company, um, a more like tech forward company with like could give you rebates, um, actually rebates with your HSA and FSA around like mold remediation. You could either build the software, sell it to mold remediators, or you could build literally a mold remediation company. Like there's a lot of those that exist. A lot of them that make a lot of money. They're very unsexy. They're like sweaty startups, but they're like work that needs to happen. And to be frank, like these companies, I very well may be like they're probably very durable in this age of AI, right? Like I think this is something worth thinking about. Is just like um, you know, yeah, like white collar jobs that might go away, and but what's gonna stay is like someone going into your house and like getting rid of that like mold. Like that's not me, it's like it's been going away for quite a while. And so we were like, wow, like no one's built a cool brand around any of these like home health companies, or like home services. And we were like, what if you went beyond mold and did other things like water quality and air quality? Um, and you look at these companies like Superpower and Function Health and their longevity for your body, but what if you did that for your home? And so there's all these little like connections you can draw. And I know that you sort of you arrived at it from a bit different place, more from like I think the fires in in LA, if I'm correct, but same kind of like we both kind of arrived at the same kind of conclusion. And I think it's still a really good idea and like a really like tech forward um, sort of like data driven company around your home's health makes a lot of sense. We we tried that for months. We went back and forth a lot about it. We like you and I like calls and inspections and like content and everything. And towards the end, Heaven was just like he took a weekend off. Um, we had done a home inspection on Friday. He like took the weekend off because we don't usually take weekends off like SF, but he did that weekend. He came back on Monday and was just like we had our weekly one-on-one. Every week we would go get coffee together for like half an hour, just talk about, hey man, like, am I bothering you? Like anything I can do
Hmm.
differently that you would appreciate? Those
I
are
love
always
that.
really helpful. And he was like, hey man, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's not even just good home. I just don't want to do the whole founder thing. Like, it's just like not for me. I'm not like sleeping well at night anymore. Um, like, what I want to go more like really technical, and I want to become like a really really great engineer. And this is like not allowing me to do that. Um,
Hmm.
and like so other personal reasons. And so I was like, you know what? Um, part of me was like, oh, let me convince him to keep working on it. And I was like, you know what? Um, yeah, I like respect that. And I feel like the founders need to be in themselves, and you can't like convince the founder to be a founder, right? That should be on their own accord. And so that then he took a step away and made me sort of like reflect on what I really wanted to do.
Hmm. Yeah, that final point's super interesting. You don't have enough time to both build a service slash product and rally the troops, like in that very, very early stage. Eventually, of course, but like it's that when you're just doing it from like ground zero, like you guys were, that's super, super challenging. That was definitely a similar challenge that me and my team started to face, just a misalignment in incentives and like assumed outcomes of what we were doing and timelines. So that's super, super fascinating. So now you're building those something solo. And is that preferred? Like, do you like what is so far? How has that felt? Because I think that there's a lot of angles that I want you to kind of touch on, but one is just like the accountability side of knowing that you have somebody else that you're also trying to hold up and doing that project. I think for a lot of people that's pretty motivating, and it's just like somebody to continue to have like a sounding board with and to verbalize what you're thinking and to check your work. Um, there's so many like dynamics to that or the benefits to having a partner. So, but also the extreme autonomy that you have in going solo and feeling like every decision is yours can also probably be kind of special. But you have way more experience here, so I'd love if you could kind of contrast what the experience has been building solo versus building with partners.
Totally. I think I could give some really interesting insights here after doing both for months. Um, I think that where do we start? I would personally, I'm very much open to having a co-founder. And I actually was actually just doing a trial with someone, a co-founder trial like a few weeks ago, but ended up not working out. He decided to do something else instead. Um, so I'm open to it. For me, I was just like, I don't think it's necessary to have a co-founder, and I don't want to spend, like weeks or months like searching for one, when I could instead be like just working on the product from day one. And also, I'm hesitant to work with the wrong person. I feel like the right co-founder is definitely better than being solo, but the wrong co-founder um, is worse than being solo, right? And
Hmm.
so I'm like default solo, building on my own, open to working with someone, if as in that capacity, if sort of things work out, if I find the right person. And also, one interesting statistic is that like I think actually most co-founder relationships, if you like look up the data, they're not uh, they're not like 50-50 or like 30-30-30. Um, they're like
Really?
oftentimes, yeah. There's like a report that was shared about this, like companies that went. I don't know if it was companies that like IPO'd. Among companies that IPO'd, um, like more of them have like unbalanced co-founder relationships or like equity split of like 70-30 or like 90-10 or like 60-40. Um, not to say that like all that to say is that maybe I imagine those situations, and very, very well may have been one person was working on it for like a longer time, and then they found a co-founder like sort of like while they were already quite far along, but still sort of in the early days, right? That actually happened with I think 222, where like one of the co-founders had been like really sort of like gung ho and really pushing for it. The other ones were a little bit like hesitant. Um, and if it wasn't for the one that was really pushing for it, it would never be where it is today.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm okay if I find someone at some point later on. How it's been so far, I think that interestingly enough, I actually find more motivation to work on what I'm working on now, the Fluency project, Amiko, language learning, than I than I did when I had my co-founder, my best friend co-founder on Good Home. And I think that's mostly because I'm just like I had this like internal sort of like relationship, emotional relationship to the problem. Like I am a language
Completely.
learner. I totally empathize with who I'm building for. I like am so excited about what I'm building, as opposed to like before. And I also like yeah I know sort of like what I want to build versus before I was like oh like do people even like want what I'm building? Like, is this even helping people? Right? Like not being a homeowner myself, like not caring. I care about health, but not like a lot. Um, so it's really fascinating to note that, like, yeah, I think actually maybe the motivation is less of a role that a co-founder, and they can play that role, but you can find that motivation elsewhere. Um, in terms of the sounding board, I think that was helpful having a co-founder. I think not having a co-founder, I've had to do a few things. A, just like using ChatGPT a bit more in those
Hmm.
regards, but oftentimes ChatGPT is not so helpful for actually. It's helpful insofar as it's like a it's like a facilitates your own thinking process, but it's very much not helpful in terms of like giving opinions.
It won't tell you your idea sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't tell your idea sucks. It'll won't explore the full idea space. Um, and so what else? I also like because I don't have the co-founder, I like reach out to friends a lot who are like in the similar stage. So I've got several other friends who are also like solo founders. And actually that can be quite helpful. Just like calling up a friend every week and being like, hey man, like here's what I'm working. Here's like my problem this week. Like, let's talk through a bit. And you talk through their problems and they talk through your problems. And that's been quite helpful. And I think the third thing is I think I've just gotten a bit better at honestly just making decisions on my own. I think with a lot of things, you just if you don't work a muscle, you don't get better at it. I think like for me, maybe the training wheels have been like having a it's that way of phrasing it, but having a co-founder was maybe training wheels for like not making decisions on my own and like always being like, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? But now it's like, okay, well, it's just me. So like, what do I think? Right? That's been interesting shift. So all in all, it's not been that that bad on those fronts. I think the hardest part is just that I it's like a little bit less fun. I think it would definitely be more fun if I had a friend who just like chat through and be like, share all these victories and share the ups and downs with. That would definitely be a pro. So maybe this will matter in like the long term. Maybe like months and months or years from now, I'll be wishing I had someone to like share the ups and downs with me at the same level. Because employees, I imagine they just can't relate to you in the same kind of way. They're not as invested. And then the just like speed, it's like it's like half as fast, and especially in the early days, where you know in the early days of of a startup, the founders matter the most because it's like just them two sort of like doing everything. And as you grow, you like hire people and you delegate, and it becomes more of like you build a machine or an organization with a lot of moving parts, and you're sort of like making sure it's all working properly. But beginning, it's just like you're trying to like put something into motion, right? And so I've that's the biggest place I feel um, lacking right now, where I'm like, yeah, this will definitely take like twice as long to get to where I would like it to. because I'm on my own.
Hmm. Makes a ton of sense. For not having the partner, you mentioned that there's a kind of a challenge of not having that kind of simple joy of just getting to kind of celebrate each little success and just have probably the humor in the room whenever you're building. Generally, right now, how are you doing? Like, how are the joy levels? Because it can be very isolating living in another country. And as I know how isolating and quiet it was when I was living in Japan, being a foreigner, you kind of become a foreign man to yourself at times, and it can be really, really challenging. So I'm curious, man, how are you?
Yeah. Dude, you're so I feel like you're very poetic. Just like generally, like even that line, I've never heard that. Like you become a foreign man to yourself as a foreigner. Um, the line earlier too of the what'd you say?
Accessing
Like
folks' humanity.
yeah, like these are fire lines.
I had too much time on my hands in Japan, man.
Um, I am I'm doing I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm doing good. Getting good sleep. I it's um it's interesting because it's like I feel like I wish I was enjoying it more, to be totally honest. I like for the longest time I just like always wanted to go work on a startup and I always wanted to go like live in Korea and I'm like doing my two favorite things now, which is those two. Um, which is like so fun and there's a lot of I think I'm having a lot more fun and like smiling and laughing more I think than I was like um in like San Francisco before this. In a lot of ways, it's really great. There's just also these like interesting parts of running a startup where you just like compare yourself all the time. So, example, like I just like spent like I spent a while making this video that I uploaded on to my Instagram like last night, and the concept was like is like guys like I got banned from Tinder, but I still wanted to meet people in Korea. So I bought this whiteboard and I went to a cafe and wrote down like coffees on me in Korean and just sat there all day until someone walked up to me and said hi. But then the joke was that no one came up to me and said hi. And the lady who came up to me at the very end, she was like, "Hey, we're closed." And I was like, "Hey guys," sort of like, if anyone knows a Tinder employee, like, let me know because I'd love to get my account reactivated. Right? I thought it was a pretty funny video. So I spent all this time working on it. And then like I opened up Instagram and the first video I see is like this guy as you do on Instagram, you see the most viral video, this guy who had like done something even more extreme where he flew all the way to China and had like all the scenes were cut so well and then there was even music in the background and it flows so well it was doing so well. I was like, oh my gosh, like the first thing I felt was just like, damn, like my thing is shit compared to his, right? And I also still my app is still not even ready because I'm still spending too much time on this content. So like those are the thoughts that I hate that are so annoying of like, oh, like, why are you not here yet, right? These expectations that we place on ourselves. And so it's not a healthy way of thinking, right? It should be like, okay, like, I'm like, don't compare, just like learn, right? Learn from his video, like what did well and you know, um, just like be better than only compare yourself to your previous self, right? Let me just like grow um, on my own each day, and that's enough. So yeah, the comparisons and so those are always a problem. I think the other hard thing to manage is the timelines. So like I yeah, some part of me is like it's like, oh, I would love to just do more content and like grow my personal brand as like a language learner in Korea for a while. But the more I spend time doing that, the more I think there's like long-term benefit to the company. Um, but also it means I'm spending less time working on the app, right? And maybe I'm spending less I can't go back to San Francisco as soon as I would like. So that's sort of a constant battle of like I have these two there's this like product and there's the content and I love doing both of them genuinely like I love creative work and having a lot of fun with both but it feels like they're both being half-assed in a way. Like I go on do content, I'm like, wait, but like these guys are doing content better than me, and I could do it that well if I spent more time doing it. And then I'm like, look at the products. I'm like, oh, but these products are um, far further ahead than I am. So it's yeah, it's really weird to. That's I think that's the hardest part. If I was just doing one, if I was just doing the product, I could be like, oh, like really obsess over this, and maybe my product could be a lot better. And but when you're doing two things at once, yeah, it's tough. I feel like the whole like founder-led marketing thing. Um, maybe I should talk to more people about this because I feel like it's way harder than people say that it is. Harder in the sense of like it's like just doing two things at once, like building a product and marketing it. It's just like there's so much work in both. But I've heard a lot on like online and from others that are like, oh yeah, like, you know, build a product and sell it, like solo full stack founder that can do it all. I'm just the more I'm getting into this, the more I'm just like, there's no fucking way, bro. Like I am trying so hard and I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it so slowly. Right. So that's the biggest thing on my mind.
You're doing it cleverly, I think. I hope that yesterday when you were in the coffee shop, you were not holding the sign the whole time. I hope that you had a computer in front of you and the sign was just next to you.
I did,
Were
I
you
did. Yeah.
okay?
I just pulled it out for like 1 minute for the video and then like put it back down and then pulled it out, put it back
Okay,
down.
thank God. Yeah, then I would have some advice for you for how to layer the two. But yeah, I'm curious, has anything worked there? Because I have the exact same problem. I literally have a whiteboard next to me that just has like all these crazy goals and identities that I like care about and I try to preserve and all the inputs that are related to those identities. It's really single 20
Mhm.
something type action there. But I struggle with this all the freaking time, and I think I've gotten okay at comparing myself to myself, but even that's an ugly headspace because I'll just like still just attack me on not getting enough done in the day, and yeah, there's just I know switching costs are difficult, but I have not found the solution to managing the many things. One framework that has helped me a little bit with my therapist has been like just extreme time boxing and almost limiting the number of goals that you set in a day. But then you like just feel shitty if you
Mm,
complete them all sometimes because you're like, could I have done more? And it's hard to just turn that little crazy person in your brain off. So have you
mm.
made any strides there or have any solutions for me? Anything that has kind of worked?
That is a great question. Honestly, you saying that makes me think I should actually start some like therapy. I feel like we all would benefit from therapy, and just like having an external sort of like voice uh, on a regular basis would be one start.
Hmm.
Um,
I have another way to frame it too. Do you think that this is like if you don't have a tactic or a solution, because I don't. My curiosity is this a bug or a feature to being high achieving?
yeah, yeah, it's kind of like I used to like we've talked about our experiences with like meditation before, right? And I used to live spent 3 months living at a Buddhist meditation center in Delaware to just like learn more about Vipassana meditation and do more of these 10-day silent meditation courses. This was like my summer internship after my sophomore year. And I think back to the time and I was so peaceful. I was a lot more peaceful, mentally stable than I am now. And not that like I'm unstable now, I was just like so peaceful and equanimous. And I also had like such little like desire at the time too. Like I wasn't chasing anything. I think it's like the more and now where I'm at right now, I'm chasing something, right? I'm like trying to make something happen. I'm trying like when you're I'm trying to like change the world, right? Like shape the world in some sort of way. Like make people care about language learning. I'm trying to make people enjoy my videos. I'm trying to um, like make a product that people like. And when you're trying to like push something onto the world, um, push something out into the world, yeah, you like want something, and you're like you have that desire and you're striving. And I feel like that striving just brings out a lot of yeah, it comes along with this like maybe I'm wrong, but it comes along with this like comparison and
Getting
you
the ones
care a
and
lot. You
tens.
care and you want and you like yeah, these emotions get can get riled up with it.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wrote something on this a bit ago where it was like, if I'm not going to be a monk, the best experience in life is existential flourishing, which, like, that's a very loaded
Mm,
phrase. But what I kind of mean by that is just like feeling like you're living, like you're doing the mostest. And, like, yes, probably an epic alternative to having like this emotional roller coaster is just being a quantumist and just feeling super peaceful all the freaking time and being a monk. But yeah, the alternative, and I think right now we're both seemingly selecting it. It's to have the bit of chaos, um, and maybe this tones down with age, and the ones start to become fives, and the tens stabilize there. But I honestly don't think they do. I think it is kind of a feature. Um, I hope this hypothesis is mildly wrong, but I think it's a nice peace of mind to think of it as a feature because then it's not another thing I need to fix in myself. Um, like, how can I be happy while I'm doing all this shit?
yeah, it's a really interesting way of putting it. I love that, dude. Another great line. Like, if I'm not gonna be a monk, I I I I at least should opt for existential flourishing. That that's great. You should really like. I mean, you're already writing, so I'm glad you're taking that step with your Substack. But it seems like you have a knack for words and writing.
Stop hyping me up, man. This is too sweet. Yeah, no, I appreciate it though. Um,
Now you need to go. Now you need to get fluent in Japanese, and you can write all of. You can start getting fancy with your Japanese writing too.
A freaking man, dude! I'm so excited for honestly, like your service, like genuinely, I'm going to be your customer number one. I'm so freaking amped because yeah, for me, language came so much faster once I was like living with a family that just like stressed me out because I felt like, oh, I want to understand you, like you're so freaking amazing, and I don't
Hmm.
understand your sense of humor yet, and you don't fully understand mine, and like that was almost the ultimate like goal. It was like I want us to laugh at each other's jokes, not out of like politeness, but because we like fully deeply understand each other. So yeah, I'm so excited for what you're building, brother. I do want to start to wrap this up out of respect for your time, man. And had one question that I've asked a ton of people, and I probably need to just stop asking this question because everyone gives the same freaking answer. But I'm gonna make you not give the answer a lot of people give, and that's time. But the question is, what is the ultimate scarce resource? And you don't have to give me what the ultimate one is, but what is just something that's like you're having a deep appreciation for because it's
Oh
not as
yeah,
many access
this is easy.
as you believe. Go for it, brother.
I feel like this is so easy. I feel like it's like passion, and like enthusiasm. I feel like when there's times in your life, at least in my 25 years of living so far, there's been times where I'm like really stoked to do something. And if you don't do it when you're stoked to do it, you very well may not be stoked to do it a year or 2 or 5 years later. And that's normal because like you change, but there's something really, really precious, I think, about someone like having any kind of like like internal enthusiasm to do something, right? So like me doing traveling the world in a gap year, my my freshman year, my freshman year of college, like at this moment, I don't really terribly want to do that. I don't want to like travel to new countries. I'm in this mindset of like I want to go build a company, right? And like build a product that people love. Um, if I had not done that, gap year after my freshman year, um, I may have graduated college and also maybe still not wanted to travel the world, right? And then I'd be wanting to build a company right now, but like I wouldn't have had this like personal experience I had from years ago that informed my building my product, what I'm building right now. Um, right. And I only would have had that because I was motivated by that um, feeling at the time of I want to go travel the world. I think that could be true for a lot of other things, like maybe um, like right now I wanted to go and leave and start building my own company at this age. Maybe if I didn't jump at this feeling, if I waited 5 years from now, I would no longer feel this way. Who knows, right? Maybe I'm like, you know what, like I kind of lost the energy and like I'm just gonna keep working at this company, which is like from one way you could look at it, it's like, okay, that's like not bad. At least how I look at it as like, no, like that anytime, you feel some strong way about something, like that is so precious. Um, and you should really like, you know, hey, like really, really, really value that.
I love that, dude. And I feel like you're just the absolute paradigm of it, of like trusting your intuition, trusting your curiosity, and using it as an amplifier for what you want to do, and just sending energy there. It seems like every move that you've done has just been deeply intentional, and that's genuinely what I definitely admire most about you, brother. Like you have this intentionality that is quite rare amongst people our age, especially people that come from certain environments. And I think the environments I'm kind of alluding to is kind of what you were talking about a moment ago, like at SC, having just like a lot of inputs compounding that were telling you like this is the thing, this is the thing. And I think when you see people that come from maybe alternative educations, or even from family backgrounds where they just empower the kid to just trust their curiosity and do whatever, it's more common. But like you're very rare for the people that didn't really have those inputs, those exceptional inputs to cause you to do these exceptional things, man. So I'm genuinely so grateful that we got to have this chat, man. And yeah, where can people find you? And can you talk a little bit about how people can get access eventually to this product or service that you're building?
Totally, totally. Yeah, thanks for the kind words, Cole. You can follow me. You can follow my language learning journey on Instagram. It's literally it's underscore Adam underscore Novak. Uh, and I also do YouTube and TikTok, but Instagram is my main channel. You can check out the app at two places, either amiko.life, so AMIKO.life. Uh, the wait list is there now and will soon not be a wait list anymore. And or also our company's website, which is thefluencyproject.co.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother. And I'll include all those in the show notes. Really, really appreciate it, brother. If you made it to this outro, thank you so much for listening. Genuinely trying my best to get better at this and make this as educational and entertaining for you. So please let me know how I can improve. I freaking love feedback. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, at Cole Hume. And if you're the cultivated type and like to read a little, I intend to post way more on my Substack. So you can find me at Young, Smart, and Battling Broke there. Until next time, smile at strangers, and please trust your curiosity. Thank you.